So with that, I am going to see if you can get us recording.
We are there.
Thank you very much. And we will call to order the December 21st, 2022 board meeting to order. And I'd like to please remind everyone to mute your audio when not speaking, as well as state your name prior to making a comment or motion and second for an action item. I'll begin this evening by asking for each commissioner to please respond with a here when I'll call out their name. Commissioner Doan. Commissioner Duggan.
Here.
Commissioner Fisher.
Here.
And Commissioner Lysick.
Here.
Thank you. All right, we'll begin by a report from our Chief Executive Officer and management staff.
Well, good evening, President Sanders, commissioners. Thank you, and welcome to the shortest day of the year and our holiday festivities. So we'll kick this off tonight. I don't have much to present tonight, but I'll be handing it off here pretty quickly to Andrew Karlstrom, who will be giving a department update. So the January 3rd work session, we are suggesting canceling this work session in part due to its proximity to the New Year holiday. People just coming back. So we just don't, and we don't have a lot for that agenda. Question is if the board supports us canceling the January 3rd work session.
I support it. This is Todd Sanders.
Looks like there's a thumbs up from Carl Fisher, thumbs up from Commissioner Lysick. I'm sorry, Commissioner Fisher and Commissioner Lysick, and a thumbs up from Commissioner Duggan. Okay, so we'll do that. And I will point out, you know, in the last couple of days here, as we've watched this weather set in, I do want to make the board aware that the staff, we are prepped as much as we can be and ready to respond to this cold weather event that we're going to be seeing here. So frozen meters, frozen pipes, broken pipes. So that kind of stuff seems to go hand in hand with this cold weather, and we have staff ready to respond to those events. So just so you know, that's all really come to fruition here in the last couple of days. With that, unless there is any, now my mouse is frozen. All right, let me try that. So unless there's any questions for me on anything, I'm going to turn this over to Andrew Karlstrom, our customer service manager, and he will give the safety minute and department report this evening.
Great, thank you, Tom. Well, good evening, President Sanders and the Board of Commissioners. The safety moment tonight is a timely one, and this is hydrating during cold weather, such as the cold snap we're entering right now. So cold weather can increase water loss, and this includes through the mechanism of respiration. Cold air has less water vapor pressure, which means that respiratory water loss can increase. Cold weather also tends to move body fluids away from our extremities to our cores, which increases water loss and adds to the dehydration effect. You also might not feel as thirsty in cold water as you would in the heat, and thus drink less water. Cold weather body chemistry can impact the brain's ability to tell you when you actually need liquid. Total body water, TBW, is tightly regulated within a fairly narrow range, plus or minus 0.2% of body weight in adults each day. And during exposure to extreme temperatures, such as we're going to have this week, disruption of body fluid balance can occur, and again in cold weather as well as in hot weather. Some of the signs of dehydration that occurs in adults: extreme thirst, less frequent urination, dark colored urine, fatigue, dizziness, and confusion. So you might not feel as thirsty when it's freezing, but make sure you drink plenty of water anyways. Don't rely on thirst to tell you when you need to drink. Drink often and before you're actually thirsty. Hydrate with water, not with alcohol or carbonated and caffeinated beverages, which can have a dehydrating effect. And do enjoy exercising in the cold weather, but make sure you do keep your water bottle in tow. And then the bonus round here is don't forget about your pets during cold weather. Make sure they have a warm, dry place with plenty of food and water. And that is your safety moment for tonight. So I'll go right to the department report. Tonight's department report is an update on district meter to cash modernization efforts. So just a reminder, what we call the meter to cash cycle, that's in aggregate all processes of enrolling customers, maintaining account data, reading meters, billing customers, taking payments, addressing collections issues, providing refunds to customers, and applying payments to the accounting ledger. That's what we call the meter to cash cycle. And the source here is a really fabulous report that was beneficial to us early in the CIS journey, and that's from the Water Research Foundation on planning and implementing CIS and AMI projects. So the foundational changes, the large projects at TVWD have been CIS, and now looking ahead, an AMI project. So let's talk a little bit about the CIS, the Customer Information System. The update tonight is that the project is nearing completion. At this point, the vendor has met the deliverables in the contract, and the partners, that's TVWD and Clean Water Services, have accepted the solution. We're actively in project close down, and this also includes the transition to ongoing operations and standing up our governance with both Clean Water Services and our vendor Open International. And similar to our implementation governance, we have an executive committee, we have an oversight committee, which will now include a change review board. And then we have, instead of an implementation project team, we'll have a service delivery team. And this will include representatives from TVWD Clean Water Services, but multidisciplinary, and also our vendor. Stabilization, that's a reminder, that's the period after you go live with a new system where the utility client adjusts to potentially radically new processes, procedures, and policies of the new system. And for us, it's been a big change going from the legacy utility billing system to an off-the-shelf CIS. The contractual stabilization with the vendor, and that was multi-months as described in the contract, that's complete. But just a reminder that the operational stabilization is still underway, and we're working with staff and with our vendor to address pain points. That's normal and it's expected, but we're still working through it. And our experience, based on what other utilities experiences, will be, it's going to take longer than 4 months. The CIS version, that's something we're working on right now. Our product has frequent product updates. We went live with release 38, and at this point we're upgrading. It's not really an upgrade. It's getting currency to release 43. So that's underway right now. We're going through testing, and we think we'll go live with that in January. So a lot of activity right now that staff are taking on, including getting current with our latest version of CIS. Future improvements, we've called this phase 2 as we look ahead to continuous improvement of the CIS. This will be a range of improvements to address both customer experience and operational efficiency. And I did want to reiterate for the board, especially since we have 2 members that are newer to the board, this is a reminder of the joint ownership of the new CIS. This is a partnership project and now ownership. TVWD and Clean Water Services are joint owners of the new CIS solution. And consistent with the selection and implementation agreement principles, both agencies will continue to share cost and decision making going forward. And phase 2 decisions are partnership decisions between TVWD and Clean Water Services. One area we still need to tackle is a new joint billing intergovernmental agreement with Clean Water Services to reflect what it takes to operate under the new CIS. So we definitely need to have operational experience underway before we determine what that takes. But we've started to have a few discussions, but that's yet to be developed and take to you for approval. I did want to highlight monthly billing. That's something that everybody in both agencies have been interested in for quite a long time. The Rate Advisory Committee, the original RAC, recommended this. It was deferred into a new CIS could be implemented. Monthly billing considerations, there can be a range of approaches to get there. We also need to think about interim solutions versus long-term solutions. And over the long term, AMI is going to be able to provide consumption data for what really you could consider to be true monthly billing, not something that's based on potentially a degree of estimation. We need to strongly consider customer experience and weigh it strongly when we consider what option to take for an interim solution pre-AMI. And again, this is a partnership decision with Clean Water Services. We are looking at engaging with the consultants, hoping that begins in January 2023 to look at our options for monthly billing. And we also will leverage staff work that's been completed to date. So I'm going to stop there before I go on to the next slide and see if there are any questions. All right, seeing none. Shutoffs for non-payment. I wanted to have this in front of the board just to let you know that the question is, when do we resume shutoffs? As a reminder, TBWD paused shutoffs for both CIS, go live and stabilization, as you know, for much of the pandemic. Staff have been tasked with developing options and timing for a resumption of shutoffs. Shutoffs will not resume in 2022. So during the holiday season, that is not going to occur, but we'd like to provide you an update in January on what the direction looks like for resuming shutoffs. And with that, I'm going to transition to AMI. So at this point in advanced metering infrastructure, or AMI, we're in the design phase, and we had budgeted funds for a consultant to help us with this work. The consultant actually is the same consultant that did the same study with the Portland Water Bureau. At this point, they've been selected. We have the studies underway. We estimate the final report will be completed in April 2023, and we'll want that information for the budget process. And as we have information from that design phase report, including the cost model, to inform an initiative for the 2023-2025 budget process. We've also asked a consultant for an initial cost estimate for an AMI implementation for January, but more work will need to be done for the cost model further along in the budget process. So some of the considerations underway in the study, the workshop topics. We have workshop topics, and we also have field surveys that are occurring. The workshop topics are organizational project goals, needs, and readiness, a review of the current state of AMI systems in the marketplace, business drivers, what are they for TBWD, a review of systems, assessment, and interface work requirements, a business process review, the scope for an implementation, risk management for an implementation, cost estimates for capital and the life cycle, an implementation schedule, and then finally recommendations for a procurement strategy and also meter type change out. And so that's a lot to cover in these concentrated workshops, again, which will culminate in a final report. But we also have underway, starting in January, a field survey of the meter and vault population in the TBWD service area, and that'll start the first week in January. So with that, are there any questions from the board on either CIS, monthly billing, AMI, or resumption of shutoffs?
Andrew, this is Todd Sanders. Is the dashboard tied into any of this? The customer dashboard that was brought to us probably a little over a year ago?
I'll have You know, I'm going to have to get back to you on that, Commissioner Sanders.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Any other questions from the board?
I don't hear any, sir.
Okay, but yeah, we'll definitely return more information for you on that request.
Right, thank you.
Mhm.
All right. Very good. I believe, is that summarize then all of our management presentations today? Who's got control?
It does, yes.
There we go. All right. Fantastic. We're now going to move on to the next phase of the evening, which is commissioner communications and reports of meetings attended. And we'll begin with commissioners reporting on recent meetings attended. And I do believe Commissioner Doan is with us this evening. Commissioner Doan.
Yes, sorry about that. Got waylaid in one of those things where no good deed goes unpunished. I thought I'd also tell you that today is my 54th wedding anniversary. So anyway, but okay, here's what I did. Okay, there was a special work session on the 17th, and I attended that. I met with Judy Clark on Tom's performance appraisal on the 21st. WWSS on the December 3rd. Had a work session on December 6th. WIF interviews on December 9th. The RAC on December 13th. Attended the Advanced Technology Conference on earthquakes on the 14th, and then tonight's meeting.
Marvelous. Congratulations, Commissioner Doan, and to Mrs. Doan. That's amazing. 54 years is absolutely fantastic. She clearly
Well,
has
she's put up with me. She's a
that was about what I
fantastic
was going to
person for
say,
doing
right?
that. I when we celebrated our 50th wedding anniversary, we were in Hawaii, and I kept thinking, given the circumstances I was in 1968, I wouldn't have married me. There was the draft, and the world seemed to be falling apart, and she did anyway. So and it, we're continuing to go on. But anyway, I love her very much.
Yes. Pastor Doan is a wonderful woman and clearly has a good heart and married well. She married well. I'll say that. Commissioner Duggan.
Well, I don't know if I can compete with that anniversary. That's pretty impressive, Jim. 54 years. That congratulations and kudos to you and Jane. As far as this past month, it's been a fairly busy month. On the 17th, we had our board visioning session where we developed our mission, vision, values. On the 21st, I had a meeting with Judy Clark to go over our CEO performance evaluation. On December 1st was the regular WWSS meeting. On the 6th, we had our board work and executive session. On the 7th of December, I attended the Regional Water Providers Executive Committee, which is a regularly 1/3 of a year meeting where we got together and viewed staff project progress and updates. We also got a preview of what is coming out as our annual report for the consortium. Last Tuesday, the 13th, we had the Rate Advisory Committee meeting number 3. Last Wednesday, the 14th, I attended the Talking Water which we received an update from staff, and staff did a great job presenting the circumstances with the need for the pause in fluoridation due to construction activity going on, and then tonight's meeting. And that's it for the past month.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Duggan. Commissioner Fisher.
Okay. Evening all. Well, like many folks, I also met with Judy Clark in the last month and also attended our special work session. And then in early December, I had the great opportunity as part of my regular day job to go to Honolulu for the Council of State Governments annual meeting. And for the most part, my boss is retiring, so she went off and did healthcare stuff and pretty much told me, Carl, go pick whatever workshops and sessions you want to go to. And so I got to attend several around community resiliency, infrastructure, emergency management. I got to hear a great presentation from the American Society of Civil Engineers on building codes for earthquakes. So it was a really great time. Had a very good time in Honolulu listening to some different perspectives and a lot of stuff that would apply to us in TWD and in emergency management and resiliency. And that's my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Fisher. I hope there was a session on Waikiki Beach.
There were several afternoons that I got to enjoy Waikiki Beach and learn about what goes on Waikiki Beach.
Quite the experience, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, indeed. All right. Thank you, Commissioner Fisher. Commissioner Lysick.
The perfect time of year to be there too. So I'm daydreaming now of Hawaii years and years from now when I can drag the family there. As far as my meetings, the special work session on 11/17 for visioning. On December 1st, I had a brief phone discussion with President Sanders talking about CEO compensation. On December 2nd, Commissioner Doan was nice enough to sit down and have lunch with me. Kind of continued onboarding and really just getting to pick his brain from those decades and decades of professional experience. On the 6th, our board work session, which has already been mentioned. And then December 8th, Tom and Pete and various other TVWD staff organized a system overview and site visits for me. And I cannot recommend that more highly to any of the other commissioners. If you haven't done it recently, there's plenty of new infrastructure, new-ish infrastructure online, and some other really neat things in progress already. And it was an invaluable midday through afternoon. And then this evening's meeting.
Marvelous. Thank you, Commissioner Lysick, and I'm sure you will get to Hawaii soon. It's only like a 4-hour flight, so it's not too bad.
Yeah, when was the last time that you did that with twin toddlers?
Well, I've never had twins, but as soon as they were old enough to swim away from the sharks, yeah, we were there. That's a bad joke at the expense of the poor woman in Maui this week. And I apologize to her family for that. That wasn't necessary. In my case, on the 17th, I had also attended the special work session for visioning. On the 1st, along with Andrea Watson and Ryan from CFM, we attended the Washington County Chamber of Commerce meeting for some legislative outreach and some handshaking and smiling. And then on the 6th, the board work session. The 13th, we had our board agenda planning session, as Commissioner Duggan mentioned, and then today's board meeting. So that'll wrap it up for me this month. And with that, we will move on to the next topic, which is topics to be raised by commissioners. And I'll pause for a moment to see if there are any topics that need to be raised by the commissioners at this time? Not hearing any, we'll move on to public comment. Public comment time is set aside for persons wishing to address the board on items on the consent agenda and matters not on the agenda. Additional public comment will be invited on agenda items as they are presented. Do we have any persons this evening who would like to comment? Okay. Not hearing any, then we'll close that item and we'll move on to this evening consent agenda. The consent agenda items are considered to be routine and may be enacted in one motion without separate discussion. Any board members may request that an item be removed by motion for discussion and separate action. Any items requested to be removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion will be considered immediately after the board has approved those items which do not require discussion. This evening, the items on our consent agenda are to A, approve the November 16th, 2022 regular minutes, approve the November 17th, 2022 work session minutes. Thank you. Approve the December 6th work session minutes. Approve the TVWD appointments to the Barney Reservoir Joint Ownership Commission and the JWC for calendar year 2023. Adopt Resolution 14-22, which establishes regular monthly meeting dates for the Board of Commissioners for the calendar year 2023. And to approve the amended and restated Chief Executive Officer employment agreement between the district and the CEO. Do I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented?
This is Jim Doan, so moved.
Thank you.
Commissioner Fisher, I second.
Thank you, Commissioner Doan and Commissioner Fisher. I'd like to now ask our district recorder to please provide the roll call vote.
Commissioner Doan,
Yes.
Commissioner Duggan,
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher,
Yes.
Commissioner Lysick,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanders.
Yes. All right, the motion passes. Thank you, everybody. Item number 2 on this evening's agenda is our business agenda, where we will consider accepting the report of the independent auditor and the district's annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal years ending June 20th, 2022 and 2021. The staff report will be made by Paul Matthews. Before I hand it off to Paul, I'd always thought this was a pretty impressive job to be done, but my wife is now responsible for the same report for Portland Community College, and it took her from the 3rd week of July until last week to complete it. So by our calculations, 5 out of 12 months of the year she spends doing the ACFR report. That's amazing. And I can only feel for you and for your auditors because the independent folks are probably doing this several times a year. And that's pretty stunning and amazing work. So kudos to all of you. With that, I'll hand it off to you, Paul.
Well, thank you, President Sanders and commissioners. Truth be told, actually, I work probably the least on the audit of any of the staff in the finance department, and the people who do the real work are actually with us tonight. At least David Schick is our controller, and David is responsible for pulling together the our ACFR, as well as his entire team. And we have Seetal Patel, who is responsible for doing the audits on the 3 joint ventures that we have audits for. That's the Willamette River Water Coalition, which we do a review of, and then the Willamette Water Supply System and the Willamette Intake Facilities Commission. So it is busy. We've moved from working on the audit to working on the budget. So it's kind of provides year-round employment for us. And for our auditors, they're not just working for us. They actually are doing audits for Clean Water Services, for the city of Hillsborough, for the city of Portland, and others in the region. I'll let Julie talk about that here in just a moment. But for tonight's presentation, I want to just take a few minutes to give you some introductions, which I just did, frankly, and talk a little bit about TVW's financial highlights. Actually, I want to take you down memory lane here to give you some context and not talk just about where we are now, but to talk about overall how the district's finances are progressing to get to the point where we can support that Willamette water supply system. That's been our objective now for more than 10 years. Then I'll turn it over to our auditors, Moss Adams, Julie Desmonet, who's the partner for this engagement, and Laurel, I could say Stevens, but you're going to have to help me now. This starts with a B. But I'll let them introduce themselves. They are the auditors who did the work and who did the audit itself to the standards that they have to follow. And then President Sanders, before we terminate, I'd like to bring it back and make a recommendation for the board itself. So that's kind of the order of events. So the audit is part of our financial management process. Talked about this for several years. It's part of that oversight. We develop a financial plan, which we're working on now. We develop a budget, we have rates, and then we deliver things. The audit is part of that oversight. And we're fortunate in the finance group that we actually get external parties looking at our work, making sure that we're doing things correctly, giving us advice, and pointing out where we could do things in a better way. And we welcome that. And I think every work group would welcome that kind of feedback. It strengthens us over time. In addition to that, CEO Hickman stole my thunder last month when he talked about our award for the ACFR for the prior year that we received from the Government Finance Officers Association, GFOA. And that's an important effort for us as well, because that has our audit going out to independent reviewers around the country. Not our audit, I'm sorry, our ACFR, to be delivered to those independent reviewers. And they help us make sure that it's a fair presentation. They also help us ensure that it's translatable and meets all the standards of GFOA. So we really appreciate that feedback loop to help us do the oversight. Now I'm going to take you down memory lane. And I'm going to talk about how we've been building capacity for the water supply program. I'm showing the increase here in our water sales revenue. So this is where the bulk of the district's revenue comes from over a 10-year period. You'll find this information in the statistical section of the ACFR, but I wanted to put it in a graphical format just so that you can see how the district has been building capacity over time. You can see a little bit of a divot there when we lost some customers to Beaverton. You can also see the effects of COVID if you look at the graph and look at the timeline. But this is the revenue that's coming in from our customers to fund the Willamette Water Supply Program. We have been on a long march to build that financial capacity to be able to pay the debt off on the Willamette Water Supply Program. This is what's been the focus of our attention over these years. In addition to looking at that, I just throw a trend line on there so you can get a sense of this with some of the bumps and humps taken out of it. It has been a track that we've been working on over time. Operating expenses. This is something very important to us. We want to manage our operating expenses very carefully. This also builds financial capacity, so we can grow our top line revenue faster than our operating expenses. We can build more capacity to pay for the debt. We've done some strategic things to manage our operating expenses. You might remember a few years ago, we funded a side account on PERS to manage that expense, to bring that down. We've done a lot of things to keep vacancies open as a result of COVID. And it's a constant effort at the district to manage our expenses, again, to provide more capacity for the Willamette Water Supply Program. So where are we going? For us, obviously the ACFR is a lot about history. It is documenting what we've done. It is what is the financial position of the district at June 30, 2022 and 2021. It's very important. But for finance folks, we want to look forward. And the way that we do that is we look at our net revenue and our coverage revenue. These are two terms that are defined in our master resolution for our bonds. The bottom line is, this is our capacity to borrow money, and that's what we're building over time. It's the revenue that we come in, less operating expenses. I'll spare you the details about the fact we take out depreciation, but this is the thing that we're trying to push up over time so we can enter into those borrowing agreements and have the money available to build out that program that's so needed by our community. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Julie and Laurel. And I see that we have Laurel. Sorry about that. Misspelled your name, but I'll turn over to you and let you make your presentation. And Julie, if you want me just to click, tell me to click.
Oh, I think We are in a, I will tell you, we are in a new space, and I was not anticipating the janitor showing up right now. So I hope you can't, if you can't hear me, I'll let Laurel take the calm. But thank you for having us tonight. My name is Julie Desimone. I'm with Laurel. Okay, I'm gonna try it. Brashako.
Prosecco. There you go, Julie.
Prosecco. I've been working on that for the past several weeks because Stevens just came on. I've known her for a long time. We're extremely excited to be here tonight. I will tell you, just from the commissioner's reports. So I just to get us back to making sure that we are how am I trying to say this? So we understand the commissioner's reports. I'm an identical twin, which will help that out. And Laurel is just got married this year, so she's starting down her journey of marriage. So it's a fun part with what you guys were sharing personally. So we appreciate that. So we're here to tell the results of the TVWD's board meeting. Going on to the first slide. So what we're going to talk about tonight, we're going to talk to you a little bit about the engagement team. We want to talk to you a little about what we did, a lot about what we did, what some of our significant audit areas were, our opinions, our required communications, our audit adjustments, and internal control matters. To stop at this point, I just want to say there is a tremendous amount of work that is done to lead us to this point tonight. And we really appreciate it's not just our work, it is absolutely the district's work. There's a lot of individuals that are part of this, and we really appreciate being able to be here tonight is a testimony to the amount of work that your teams have done to get us here. So we really appreciate all of that. So moving to our team, this is just some of your team members. Unfortunately, our firm has decided we have to show pictures of ourselves, even though we're already on screen. So this is some of the team members. So I am your engagement partner. I think it's important for the board to understand Keith Simovic's role. He is also a partner on engagement. He is our QC partner. So nothing happens until he says it's okay to happen. We have to, he is not otherwise engaged in the, or engaged with management or the board of directors of TVWD. So he's kind of our cold reviewer. He looks at our planning, he looks at our audit procedures, he looks at the audit opinions, he looks at your financial statements, and he is the one that actually gets us all the way through the audit. So it's an important QC process that we have within our firm to ensure that we've got good internal controls. Laurel, I will say, is and we put Stevens in here. We didn't even update our own presentation. But Laurel is the audit senior manager. I'll be honest with you, that's the one that does all the really, really hard work, her and Jack. So Jack was the manager on the engagement. So I get to talk at the beginning of this. She's the one that does all the hard work. So again, this is your dedicated team for TVWD. It's also important, I think, to note, your team is made up of utility-specific auditors. So we are, that is 100% of what we do. So our firm is known for our industry specialization, and we are going to continue that into the future. So next slide, Laurel. So a couple of things, what we did for TVW this year is we're reporting on whether or not the financial statements are free of material misstatement. So it's our independent auditor's report. We also give a little bit of assistance with a technical review of the ACFR now and compliance with GAAP. Now, I will say one thing that's amazing about your team, they draft the financial statements, they do all the disclosures, all the reporting, everything that we would hope the management team would do. We place an opinion upon the financial statements based on our testing. We also look at, Oregon has a requirement that we look at a certain amount of compliance areas. There's about 12 different compliance areas that we look at under state statutes, and we need to report to you as to whether those state statutes were followed. And then finally, this is our report out to you as the board of directors and board of commissioners, our report out as the final part of the audit process. So these are just a couple of the significant audit areas. We didn't want to, I want you to ensure you that we look at way more than this. But we spent quite a bit of time in our construction work in progress, your work orders. It's a massive amount of one funds, but also control matters. So you have a lot of controls that come in and are aggregated to this role. We also look at your customer billings. We want to make sure that your customers are billed correctly through all classes. It's interesting because from a customer basis, you have a lot of pretty small customers as far as how much the dollars are on a monthly basis and get to a very massive amount. We already talked about the Oregon minimum standards, and then your investments and component unit reporting is also something that we look at quite heavily. I'm going to turn it over to Laurel now for the rest of the presentation.
Thanks, Julie. So to kind of close the loop on the audit opinion and the reports that are issued as part of our audit of the ACFR, wanted to go over the ending result with the board. So financial statements, you'll note that there's an unmodified, or what we call a clean opinion on the financial statements. And as we've all said, there's a lot of work that goes into those financial statements. So it's a huge accomplishment for the district that we get to come out with this unmodified clean opinion, as well as on the Oregon minimum standard report, no reportable findings, and then also the communication to those charged with governance, which is a separate letter we will issue for the audit, and there's no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in that report. And I'll discuss a little more on what's in that report on the next slide. So that communication to those charged with governance letter, this is a high-level summary of what the board will see that is included in that issued letter. And it discusses the auditor's responsibilities under auditing standards. It will go through what our significant accounting policies were. And we're happy to say that there are no difficulties in performing the audit, no disagreements with management, and no, and then Paul, you can go to the next slide. And then you'll also note that there is no audit adjustments, no past audit adjustments, which is a great accomplishment for the district. I know we've had a few in the previous years, and we're really excited to say that there were none noted through our audit procedures this year. Next slide, Paul. Perfect. Well, that is all Julie and I had planned for the board tonight. All really great news. So thank you to Paul and David and their team for all of their help throughout this process. We'll open it up to the board for any questions that you may have for us.
President Sanders, with your permission, I'll proceed then.
Please.
Well, thank you, Julie and Laura. I appreciate that. And, you know, I talked earlier about how TVWD built capacity on the financial side. One of the other things we had to do was build capacity on our accounting side. And I'm really proud of the work that David and his team has done. When I started here, we had one accountant, and we could not scale up to do the accounting required for the joint ventures and everything else. And so we have really assembled a great team here with David in the lead, and Cedal and Kristen and Claire and several others that support them. So that concludes our presentation here tonight. If there are no questions, staff would recommend that by motion of the board, you accept the report of the independent auditors and the district's annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal years ended June 30, 2022 and 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, the staff at Moss Adams, and thank you as well to all the accounting folks within TVWD for their work. At this time, do I have a motion and a second to accept the report of the independent auditor and the district's annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal years ending June 30th, 2022 and 2021?
This is Jim Doan, so moved.
Thank you.
Commissioner Duggan, all second.
Thank you, Commissioner Doan and Commissioner Duggan. I'd like to ask our district recorder to provide a roll call vote.
Commissioner Doan,
Yes.
Commissioner Duggan,
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher,
Yes.
Commissioner Lysick,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanders,
Yes. All right, fantastic. The motion passes. Thank you, everybody, for your hard work. And I will let the folks at Moss Adams know that they don't have to stay to the end. You're free to go, as all the accountants can finally go do something probably a lot more relaxing than watch the rest of this meeting. So thank you, everybody, for your time. Cheers to you as well. Thank you for your hard work again, and have a nice holiday, everybody. All right, the next item up is to consider adopting Resolution 15-22, a resolution revising the vision statement for the Tualatin Valley Water District. And this will be presented by our CEO, Tom Hickman.
Thank you, President Sanders, commissioners. So I'm excited to say we've reached an exciting milestone here in our visioning journey. We're going to unveil and ask for the board to adopt a new vision tonight. This has been a collaborative co-creation process that's involved our staff, the leadership team on staff, and of course, you, the board, has also been involved in this. The result we have here tonight is a refreshed vision statement that is what we believe is aspirational and serves as a North Star for the district. So TVWD's current vision, which is what's up on the screen in front of you, it has served the district well. It's been with the district now for about 12 years, I believe, somewhere in that neighborhood. As we embarked on reviewing our vision, it revealed the opportunity to incorporate more of who we are today and who we will be in the future. The board's endorsement and approval of our next vision provides direction as TVWD's role in the region evolves. More importantly, is that as we embarked on this, the whole idea here is that this brings us all into alignment, from the everyday field staff and the day-to-day work that we do. The mission statement, the values, everything now aligns behind this vision. And we had three key interests in mind when we started on this. We wanted to align the district around this new North Star during a time of change. The time of change that I'm talking about is bringing on the WWSS. And as we look forward to 2026, it's a change in our identity. So we believe that it was important to have a new vision that recognized that. We wanted to create shared values to guide the decision making. And then, as I mentioned before, build that line of sight from the day-to-day responsibilities to the overall mission of the district. So visioning identifies and integrates defining traits, strengths, and opportunities, which we did. And in the process of refreshing our vision, mission, and values, we will anchor and guide the creation of our next strategic plan by supporting intentional and outcome-oriented decisions. So the whole idea here is, again, that this is all going to align now and develop our new strategic plan that has this vision in mind. So a little bit about the journey that we took on this. Participation in the visioning process really has been incredible. Staff in every part of the organization elevated the compelling elements that connect people to the work we do. And we learned that refreshing our vision created the opportunity to integrate TVWD's record of leadership, innovation, quality water, and customer service with who we are today and the opportunities ahead. So if with all this information gathering we did with staff, we did get enormous feedback that was very constructive about where should the district be headed. With everything we got back, we looked at it as a bit like baking a cake. And some unique ingredients were identified by staff. We believe, have thoughtfully compiled to forge a memorable, asset-driven, inspirational, and forward-looking statement. These ingredients that you see here on the screen will also be interwoven in our new mission, values, and strategic plans. So anything that you don't immediately recognize or see in the vision, we're actually picking up these pieces and bringing them forward as we work on the mission and the values that the district will also adopt. Oops, I just messed up, pushed the wrong button. Let me go back. There we go. Okay, the grand unveiling, at least for some. So the recommendation for our next vision is our water sustains thriving communities every day for everyone. And we're going to break this down a little bit. What do we mean by our water? So this is what we mean by it, and what we felt like all staff meant by it was providing access to high quality water is our core purpose, and the vision reflects our commitment to the stewardship of this water. When we talk about sustains thriving communities, we're talking about protecting the public health, supporting the economy and the jobs, and managing water resources. We are responsible for managing all these critical resources and really recognizing that water is safe, reliable water is the foundation for a community to be able to sustain itself and grow. So we are the base foundation for everything that is in Washington County. So, and then when we look at every day for everyone by equitably providing, we are sorry, I lost my place in my notes here. We wanted to create a vision that conveys our commitment to creating a water system that provides everyone access to safe and clean drinking water at a good value. We also wanted to be providing opportunity for everyone in our community to enjoy in the economic, social, and environmental benefits of a great water system, and then making our system resilient to risks like earthquakes, floods, drought, and climate change. So that's what we meant when we developed that statement. So how are we going to use this? Well, we wanted to recognize, that this statement, this new vision, it recognizes that households rely on us to secure reliable water supply that sustains their ability to thrive. We also wanted to recognize our emergency service providers can attest to how our water supports community safety and well-being. Our customers can trust that they will have water anytime they need it. So this is obviously one of those things that many of us don't think about was our water supply system. We think about it in terms of being able to drink, cook, clean. But one of the other huge reasons behind any community water system is its ability to fight fires. And actually, I'm sure a few of the commissioners know this, but how these distribution systems even came to be is all a result of communities that burned to the ground. And so the first thought is we got to get water closer to the fires. And that's how pressurized water systems came to be. And now we use them for all these other great things that we've all gotten very comfortable with today. And we also want to feel like the vision addressed the needs of the financially vulnerable customers, and providing emergency assistance during times of unexpected need is one way we work to sustain thriving communities, regardless of the circumstance. And we are doing that currently as we work, as you all know, through the RAC process and trying to find a way to help our customers in need. But we also wanted to recognize that every division and employee at TVWD, they help keep the water flowing so that Tualatin Valley will always be a great place to live, work, and visit, which I believe is true. It is, and it is in large part because of the water supply that everything is based on. Lastly, we wanted to know that the vision also acknowledges the intergenerational importance and impact of the decisions TVWD makes. People need water to survive and to thrive, and we do what we do so that our community can enjoy a great quality of life today and in the future. So these decisions that our staff make, that you as the board make, there's that old statement of planting the trees for future generations to enjoy the shade. A lot of the decisions you all make and we make is just that. So with that, we really wanted to thank the board for really helping us in this journey. And we really wanted to ask the board to consider this vision and decide whether it's the appropriate vision to formally adopt.
Okay, well, thank you, Tom. How about this as a way to impress upon you the board's opinion of the vision statement? I will ask for a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 15-22, a resolution revising the mission statement for the Tualatin Valley Water District. Do I have a motion and a second, please?
I will move.
This is Commissioner Lysick. I second.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Fisher and Commissioner Lysick. I'd like to ask our district recorder to please provide a roll call vote.
Commissioner Doan,
Yes.
Commissioner Duggan,
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher,
Yes.
Commissioner Lysick,
Yes.
Commissioner Sanders.
Yes. All right, fantastic. Thank you, everybody. The motion passes. And Jim, we cannot hear you.
Or Tom.
Sorry. I just wanted to say thank you again for doing this tonight. And a reminder that on January 5th, we have a special all-staff meeting right to kick off the new year, which we will formally unveil this for all staff and recognize them and their efforts in the development of this, and immediately begin the process for developing the new mission and values for the district, which then will roll right into the strategic plan after that. So, and which is Paul's very favorite part. So it's we got to measure this stuff. We got to have some data here behind all this. So, and I'm right there with Paul. I feel the same way. But anyways, I just wanted to say thank you to you, and also a recognition, Paul just put in the comments, their recognition of Jenna Franklin and Libby Bach, and everything they've done as consultants to help us get to here. They have been a pleasure to work with, and we will continue working with them as we move along on this project. So thank you to both of them. And if I could just briefly, if I could invite either Jenna or Libby, if they have any comments that they would like to add to this.
Well, no comments, but thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much. It's been a wonderful project.
Thank you.
Thank you both. And with that, I will turn this back over to you, President Sanders.
Well, thank you to everybody. We look forward to the next to the next steps. In the meantime, as the slide correctly says, there being no further business before the Board of Commissioners, this meeting is adjourned, and we will end